snap. What's up, everybody? Back to another episode of the Youth Ministry Booster Podcast, live at Etch 2024. And we were walking around the hall looking for some new friends and found one. But not a new friend, but an old friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Jacob Dunn with us live on the yellow couch here.
Yeah, man. Thumbs up. You got to get thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Bro, how are you? Welcome to Edge. Welcome to the podcast, man.
I'm good. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me be here, dude. It's awesome.
So, Jacob, you are the family pastor at Valley Creek Baptist Church in Kentucky.
Yeah.
But more than that, you've been Youth Ministry Booster for several years now.
I didn't know. I think close to that seven.
Seven. I think seven is it from the very earliest of beginnings, man, dude. Glad to have you here. Finally, I feel like we talk all the time. We don't always get to hang out all the time. Mm-hmm. The true power of like internet friendship or whatever. Like I feel caught up, and yet I also feel like I only get to see you like once a year, and that's not enough.
I know. Conferences, it's one of the best things. To get to see the people that you do communicate with a lot. Yes. And then you just to be in person, you're like, your face. It's right there in front of me. It's great.
You're a real person. I'm a real person. Mm-hmm. You're taller than I remember. Yeah, all those things.
All the time. Yeah.
Well, man, we're excited to have you. We're going to talk about some things related to youth ministry, but I have two key questions for you that are youth ministry related. Number one, we've been asking folks. Chad's not here. We miss him. We love him. God rest whatever state he's in. If you were going to guess why Chad wasn't around, what would you guess is the reason keeping him away?
If a reason keeping Chad away,
or what would be more important than this to him? What would he value more? What would he value more? Yeah.
I mean, I think he would probably value a good cup of tea. Okay. And
a little morning chess game.
Yeah, a morning chess game with a cup of tea.
He's still working on them chess puzzles.
Man, they're doing it. I watch those guys every now and then. I guess just being friends with him has caused chess to enter into my social media algorithm.
Has he influenced you?
I think so. He is an actual influencer.
Wow.
And so now every now and then those chess matches and the guys and what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And I can tell from the reel something happened.
I don't know what it was. It seemed big. Everybody gasped.
Yeah, they were huge. I can't believe it. Or the guy that's playing, they make a move and the guy's like, and then,
what a dummy that he didn't see that.
I don't know.
So, whatever.
So that's just kind of being local.
You know what? So. I think he'd be happy to know that your algorithm had been influenced by his habits. Yeah,
it's probably one of his a fourth or fifth priority in his life, but it's certainly there.
Isn't that how friendship works? I love it. I love it. Well, man, you've been in youth ministry for a long time, and we're going to talk about some youth ministry topics, but there's none more important than Jacob Dunn. What is the most? And you bought a lot. Yeah. What is the most superior soda? As a youth minister that's buying pizza, buying tacos, buying soda, what is the best soda?
Oh man, best soda. I mean, if I'm going personal taste, and I'm a deal looker. I find a good deal. I don't know if your Kroger does it.
You're bargain shopping soda?
Oh, well, not bargain shopping for the soda, waiting for the good deal to purchase the soda.
Oh,
so I don't know about your.
Oh, so stocking up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. We have
name brand, but at coupon prices. Okay, smart.
So our I don't know how big it is.
That's a seminary class, right?
Oh, it should be.
Name brand at coupon prices.
Yeah,
that's seminary.
The things they don't teach you, that's the book, right? That's the book that we got to write.
That's it. That's it.
But our Kroger does hey, every now and then it's buy two, get 5 for free or something.
Which doesn't make any economic math whatsoever.
It's it's $17.
You're can I buy one and get 2 free? No, you got to buy 2 to get 5 free.
And so they put the limit on it. It's you can only buy 10.
Yeah.
But it's that's 10 per visit. Yeah. So I'll just visit 7 times. And stock up. So we're getting the name brands, but we're getting them
So do you have a dedicated soda fridge?
We have a commercial
a soda storage unit.
We have a commercial fridge. Because we have basketball concessions that we do stuff like that. Basketball.
So you're stocking church, maybe a little at home
all
too.
All of it, and then locking it. So you're not just stealing out of that.
What are you stocking, man? You got name brands in the mix.
Well, we go name. I mean, I'm a big Coke guy. Personally,
Coca-Cola. Shout out. Not a sponsor. Could be a sponsor.
Yep. But Coke Zero, man, you got to have the Coke Zero.
Isn't it okay? Listeners, isn't Coke Zero the best Coke? Even more than Coca-Cola.
Oh yes.
Take sugar out of the mix. It's the best.
Yeah.
Better than Diet. Better than whatever other versions. They have perfected it.
Yes.
At 0 calories, 0 sugar.
And Coke Zero. Here's what thing I've noticed. like if you're a Diet Coke person, you're angry at everybody that's not a Diet Coke person.
Oh,
like you're like, I'm Diet Coke.
There's a certain tribalism.
Oh, yeah.
Like there is a protective like fold of folks that are Diet Coke drinkers. Yeah,
but I think Coke Zero people, Coke Zero people, they're peacemakers. They're bringing people together. They're like, we're not hating on Coke. We're not hating on Diet Coke. It's just everything. Right. So I'm a Coke Zero guy. Okay. I value the
cherry
Diet
vanilla.
Coke.
Do you add flavor in, or just pure?
A little bit of a purist, but I do love a good cherry Coke Zero.
Okay.
Cherry Coke Zero. So I'm having that. Dr. Pepper is big. You got to have the Dr. Pepper
full
for
flavor.
The kids. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm zero. I'm trying to be healthy. I'm clearly not healthy, but I'm trying to be healthy. So always zero. But for the kids, you do it for the kids.
Do it for the kids.
It's straight up full sugar.
If I want a DP, I want the full flavor dip. If we're doing
all 23,
if we're making that choice, I want all 23 flavors. I want all the sugars,
Absolutely.
all the calories.
I get it.
But we talked last night though. Yeah. The other surprising diet fave versus full flavor fave, Diet Mountain Dew.
Yes.
Diet Mountain Dew holds up way better than it should for being a sugary concoction. It's great.
I don't see a ton of people that are just like, I love Mountain Dew. There's a lot of Diet Mountain Dew people.
Advocates.
A lot of
advocates.
Yep.
There's probably a foundation that's out there doing the work. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. So we're bringing them all in.
Well, brother, we're glad to have you here at Etch. You're talking on student leadership while you're here. Talking on a conflict while you're here.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit of that.
I don't think there's a whole lot of people that deal with that. It's a little bit of a niche thing.
It's a lot of Diet Coke drinkers is what it is. I'll tell you that right now. I'll tell you that right now.
Amen.
Hey, saw you. But I wanted to ask, for the folks that don't know you, maybe they heard you or getting to connect with you, man, why in the world did you wind up in student ministry, now family ministry? Like, what got you into it? Because you've been doing it for a minute. And obviously, like, had the look of a man that probably could engage in a lot of industrial arts. So how did you end up in... If you told me that you upholstered or did leather work, I'd believe you.
That's one of the skills that I'd love to have in life. Woodworking?
If you had a woodworking apron, if you had a pencil right now behind the ear ready to go, I'd believe you.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I don't have those skills.
But you have youth ministry skills.
Yeah.
Or just a calling. I mean, just say more.
We could call them skills, or we could call them just, something that you've crafted over a long period of time. There's a lot of work.
Earn it.
Yeah,
we call that experience.
That's a good word.
Sweat equity.
That's right.
Youth ministry has a sweat equity. It does.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. No, I mean, I've been doing it for, we're running in 20 years now, which is a weird thing to say.
To start saying it in decades.
Yeah.
It lands different on the tongue.
Yeah.
As much as you want to say 2 decades.
Yeah, right. So, man, it started way back, and I think about it. It's funny because that was never my plan.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, most guys out here would probably say, like, oh yeah, ministry was never my plan.
Yeah.
They had the other plans. And, I was going to be a doctor. Like, and I look back and go, that was ridiculous. Like, no, nobody wants to be as their doctor. Yeah. But that was kind of where I was going. But I remember, man, the first time anybody ever leaned in and said, I think something's different for you. I remember it was one of our youth leaders. Wasn't the pastor. It was just a youth leader. And we were sitting in church. And this, I don't know if your church still does it. I don't know if any church still does it. But this was back when like all the students sat together.
Okay,
like you had like those 2 pews that were like
sit
all.
With us. It was all the kids that like the other adults are like, is he on his phone?
Yeah.
I love my favorite in those sections is when I would get text during service from somebody about a student that was on their phone. Yeah. The irony was holy.
Right. What do you want me to do about that? Be on my phone? Right. So we were all sitting together, like away from our parents, but together, like, and it's always like the front 2 rows or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're there, and we're just kind of being silly before. And this leader, her name was Jill. She turned around and looked at me, and she goes, "You know what? You're going to be a teacher or a pastor."
Oh. Just called it out.
Just just turn around, like right in the middle of it, and I just laughed. I'm like,
voice of the Lord,
way.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah.
That's not. There's no way.
Wow.
I was a senior. Like, I knew my plan. I knew where I was going to school. Like, I knew the path. Like, no, we're going to this college. We're going to get this degree.
Like, all mapped out.
And so it's one of those things that you just kind of put it behind.
Retire, nice little woodworking thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then big long story, but go to college, and my plan is clearly not working. Like where I want to go and what I want to do, like it's not clear. Like this is as far as like the work that's got to get done. I don't know if you know this, but becoming a doctor is hard. Like there's a lot of work and a lot of stuff.
You talk about sweat equity. You trade 10 years for 30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a lot of really small detailed things you got to know. And I'm like just in the beginning of that process, not even like med school or anything. Like we're not talking, we're talking like pre-med, we're like pre-med.
Oh,
we're like in like, hey, here's your like not high school, but still pretty basic, college classes. And I'm struggling. And I'm going, hold on a second here. Like I was pretty confident this was the good plan and the right plan for me.
A noble pursuit.
Yeah, but that's not working. And so what's going on here? And the Lord really started bringing in my mind these people like Jill who had kind of stepped in and said, hey, I think there's something different for you and you don't see it yet.
Okay.
And so then I started reaching out going, man, who can I grab to kind of start having conversations with this? And other guys are just thankful that the Lord had put kind of in proximity to me, guys that were on the football team with me in college that were also walking a path towards ministry and guys who were doing ministry but were just like secular. Like one of the craziest voices was a guy who was a doctor for the football team who was leading Bible study.
Wow.
And so you're seeing like, okay, and they're starting to just kind of pour in and like, man, can I ask you some questions? Can I talk to you about these sort of things?
Yeah.
And it was through those people that God revealed like, hey, I have a different passion for you, and really started growing that in me. And I realized, man, it is into my sophomore year, like God is calling me into ministry through this. Like He's revealing that my path isn't going to work, but His path is better.
We're going to talk some more about that because there's something about the path laid by the people along the way that is critical. Yeah. It's hard, and it's so funny because it's hard to know while it's happening, right? Like I'm sure in that very moment you're like, oh, something's up. But now when you look back, it's like, well, yeah, obviously.
Right.
Like the breadcrumb trail backwards is such a curious, like, well, there could have been no other way.
Right.
That's exactly how it had
This
to
is
play.
the way it had to be.
Yeah. It was these people along the way that I met, that informed, that challenged, that like literally like at the crossroads, at the turnstile.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So.
Well, that's some of the things that we want to talk about even now. So part of your journey into ministry through the mentors along the way, the people that poured into you along the way, is something that we talk about a lot as guys that are measuring ministry in decades. And so, man, like tell us a little bit about on the ministry side of life. The calling is such, but in the 20 years of ministry that follows, like who were those mentors? Did you find them? Did they find you? And if you want to name names, feel free to shout out whoever. I mean, that's one of those like let's give attribution and flowers where they're due. Yeah,
absolutely. There's some, man. I look at some great guys. So fast forward a couple years back from, so feel that calling into ministry. Obviously, man, life is going to be different. What I'm studying is going to get different. Who I'm kind of positioning myself around is going to be different and leaning into some people. And then, fresh out of the gate, I'm at just a secular liberal arts college. I'm not like at a ministry school where it's like, oh, well, clearly that's the path. Here's the opportunities that are in front of you. So you just kind of start looking, and so it's like, well, where's the first place? Well, I'm going to go work at a summer camp, like a Christian summer camp, and just not even like counseling or anything like that. I'm just maintenance. I'm a lifeguard, and I'm a, toilet cleaner, and I'm a mulch mover and that sort of stuff. But just to be around ministry and find people, because then you find people who are doing it right there. And so I think of guys that were early in that kind of, even as I walked through college, like guys like David Baird, who, he's camp director, but just kind of his, learning from him and his kind of work ethic around what ministry looks like in that particular context, and like, man, this is work, and we treat it as work because it's important, And then to the end of college, when I step out and I go, well, I'm going to go find just whatever job I can find. Like, where is it? Who's going to hire me? This fresh out of college, never done any ministry, never even had any ministry training. Who's going to do that? And I'm thankful that the first season of ministry was back in my hometown in Owensboro, that there was a group of youth pastors that met together. And so they
Fellowship of the Saints.
Man, they were in it, and they met, every Monday. They had lunch if you wanted to come grab lunch with them, and they would sit and they would talk, and it was just, was it planning the big events and the D-Nows and the Sea of the Poles? Sure. But more than that, it was like, hey, we're sharing some wings, and we're talking about how was yesterday. And what's going on. And so
talking about yesterday with folks who understood it, come what may.
Right.
The wins, the losses, the pitfalls, the pit stops, the parents that pull you over in the passing lane.
Amen.
Nobody else understands it better.
Right.
That's right.
So they're there, and there's guys that have been doing it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And so to be able to just sit around the table, and and I can think of all these different names of those guys, but in that moment it was really great that it wasn't just like one-on-one, and I can have those one-on-ones for sure. And, I can think of Toms and the Matts and the guys that were there that I could sit down with, and that were willing to not just like, hey, here's this young guy, like, hey, let me talk to him about church, but also like, hey, why don't you just come over? Why don't you and your wife come over and hang out with me and my spouse, and we can hang out, we can eat meals and that sort of stuff together. But also man, here's what's going on. I know the past and the history of your church. I know where you're at and how your church is different than my church. That
collective knowledge that like I knew before you.
And I knew the last guy. Yeah. And I know like here's
what you got to watch out for. Yeah.
Right. Well, and there's just the beauty of that collectiveness in that we can work together in these things. Yeah. We're not enemies, and I want to help you. Yeah. Like I want to be there with you, and I want to help you walk through those things. And
that collective work, man, like that's one of those. It's always curious to me. And maybe it's the tension of what youth ministry is that we've always got young people that are going through things for the very first time, right? So like, all these 14-year-olds are like, I'm about to be 15, 16, or a bunch of sophomores that are like, should I go to college? And it's always fresh for their eyes. Yeah. But the longer that we do it, we can see. And I think this is the lived-in wisdom of like, man, I have seen a lot of kids graduate. Like, how much more do you minister differently now for students that are like anxious, apprehensive about college than you did when you were 24, 23, and you're like, well, I just finished it, and this is what it is. Yep, right. And now you're like, well, let's take a beat.
Let's slow down.
That wisdom that comes from doing it, but then the shared wisdom of the community leadership, because that's, man, wherever you're serving, unless you like help plant the church, there was people that were there before you, and hopefully there'll be people that are along after you. And if there are community voices to help educate and illuminate, that actually is a resource better than you discovering it on your own effort.
Right. And it's a gold mine to be able to kind of lean into guys. And I mean, you're young, and we all make mistakes, and we all like learn, and we're all so gung-ho.
This will not be the end of you.
And it's like, oh man, I'm going to do this, and oh man, this thing I'm going to kill this event, and for somebody to step in and say, hold on a second here, let's talk about how important that is to your church. And
I know it matters so much to you, but institutional memory, this actually, the phrase "this has been tried before" should not be as crushing as it should be lifting and clarifying.
Right. So that was that season where it was like a lot of guys kind of around the table, and I could learn from a lot. And then we stepped out of that after a few years into kind of the seminary world. And Kim and I were really intentional about looking around at a church that would be able to provide more specific help in that way. Yeah. And so we stepped out, and again, we're talking at that point 26, just it's still, man, we're still a baby, in this ministry world, still learning. But I was thankful to be able to step into a church with some guys that had walked a really clear mentorship path and been mentored well. Yeah. And saw the importance of that. Yeah. And so they were doing a lot of really good work to try and continue that pathway of that mentorship and say, man, this is what it's done for me. I want to pass that on to the next guy so that they can pass it on to the next guy. And so we thankfully found that group and found some guys that were willing to just kind of like pour in and say, this is what we want. All that goes with it.
So help our folks out a little bit. Like how so mentoring has meant a lot to you. It's one of the things that we practice now. It's part of the ethos of what like the booster setup is about. What would your wisdom be for those that either looking to mentor or be mentored? Like what is the need? What's the way? What's the find?
Yeah, I mean, I think boldness is probably a good one. Like, don't be afraid to go look for it.
Go look for it. Go ask for it. If you're looking for it, go ask for it.
Don't be weird about it. Yeah. Like there's a lot of us.
Will you be my mentor?
Yeah. Like we want.
Let's go grab coffee. Yeah.
Right. Like there's a way to.
Will
ask
you attach your life energy to my? Yeah.
Right. I've seen those guys, and they don't end up getting mentored a lot, right? Because it's like, hey, we can do some stuff, but that's cool. Like,
because it needs to be a little bit of a organic or natural hang. Like, because again, it's mentorship. It's not a program.
Right.
And that's one of the things that, we talk about a lot. Like there are some really intensive coaching programs for all kinds of disciplines, but mentorship is just somebody who's a little bit further ahead than you that you'd like to end up like. Yeah. Like, man, you've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing it for 10. I like how you lead. You seem to still really enjoy your family and what you're doing. Why do you still like it? It is some of those like kind of podcasty questions. Yeah. Why are you still doing it? Yeah.
And it is. It's a cup of coffee. That's one of the easiest things to do, I think, is like, hey, can I take you out for a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
And I'm dealing with some things. I would just love to be able to ask
pick
you
your
some
brain.
questions.
Pick your brain.
About this stuff.
Yeah.
And then just allow that relationship to form in a way that's like, man, I'm thankful for you.
Yeah.
Can I continue asking? Can I reach out to you?
If it doesn't form, you're not done. Maybe somebody else. Like that's
right.
Don't just try once.
Right. No. Keep looking, because that's the thing. You might find a guy and you go, man, I appreciate this guy. I appreciate their ministry. They're in such a different place.
Or
maybe
schedule
life
right
stage
now,
or schedule
season,
exactly. Like they would love to, but they just can't.
Yeah.
That it is what it is at that point. So
and that's one of the things I think for conferences it's really great, man. Every time we get a chance to at breakouts or whatever to try to be a little bit like almost intrusive of like, man, everybody picked this one. So clearly we're all a little bit interested. Let's connect and just see. There's a little bit of just like let's just sprinkle and see, because I want to ask you, like, as someone who's a couple decades into it now, how do you go about, are you looking for, who are the folks that you're mentoring? How did that happen on the other side? Because I do think there's an onus the other way. Yeah, young youth minister, men and women that are new to serving in their church for the next generation of people. Please go find somebody. But if you've been doing this for a while, it's kind of on you also, right? There's a little bit of responsibility.
Like that,
so beyond just your title and pay or whatever.
Right. It's a part of, we understand, like, my ministry is better when all of our ministries are better. Like we're in this together. And so for me, man, I've been blessed to see that in a way that I never thought when I was 25, 26, 27 years old, early in ministry, that God has given to me the ability to grow in wisdom and understanding and in experience in doing this, that to be here 20 years later and still be doing it. There's not a lot of people that are saying that.
Right.
There's a lot of people that have just through life gone in different roles in different ways. And so there is that ownership, like, hey, part of what I'm called to do to reach students. And I'm called to reach students, but a part of the way that I'm called to do that is to broaden that influence out to other people that are also reaching students and to see them. And so I need to be looking around me and seeing. So for me now, on the other side of that, I'm blessed to be able to be at a place like this and be able to teach and stuff like that. I need to be looking at who's that guy that's hanging around a little bit longer.
Lingers. Look for who's the learners and the lingerers.
The
questions up are the ones that hang in the back. Those are probably your person.
Right. Well, we talked yesterday in when we talked about student leadership, when we're looking for people who are ready to be led to become leaders. They're showing up early. They're staying late. They want to be there around.
Sometimes
it's
the student council president. Other times it's the kid that's just always there early and doesn't know exactly what to do.
So if you're in a context where where in your community you have a guy who's like every now and then reaching out, going, hey, you know about this thing? What's going on here? Like, that's a chance for you to lean into that and go, man, can I pour into you some wisdom that I've learned? Because I was you not too long ago. 20 years is a long time. Grand scheme, it's not. Like, man, it wasn't too long when I was in the same place.
One of the things we would always do when I was serving on staff in Tulsa is there was enough of us that kind of met that if we ever got wind of like, hey, Trinity's hiring somebody new, we would go make a little gift thing and like put the first step on us. If we put it out there, we're like, hey, this is us, this is what we do, here's our phone numbers, and if they did never call, we at least we took the awkward step first. Like those that have been responsible for longer were willing to take the first awkward step of like, hey, Ty, you don't know me, but me and some of these guys meet or whatever. Just know you've got other brothers and sisters that would love for you to hang out with us or call us about anything. And then again, they choose not to. That's all you do. But you're there doing it.
Right. And so I make sure that in Baptist world, you're our local association guy.
The associational work.
Our denominational Kentucky guy. Like, shout out Matt Flanagan, awesome dude. But like
Matty.
they know that here are the guys that not just that have the ability, but the desire. Like we want to impart that because, big scheme, when you have the guys like us that have been doing it for years, like at some point we have to pass that along to the next group, the next generation.
Again, such is the nature of youth ministry. Right. So the youth minister and the seasonality of it is you will not be doing this forever. And the hope is that you would outdoorsy stuff, leave it better than you found it, which means that you were leaving behind others either from your own ministry or again, if the call is to the next generation. Widening that base. And I get it. There are some seasons where you're crazy busy.
Oh, sure.
But some of this, I think, is important because it keeps us less busy because it keeps some of these priorities in check, too. Yeah. Like, it's not just everything that I can do at my local church, but to have some big C church interest, even at the ministerial level. Because they need it, you need it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. One more question, man. I want to know, what are some of the lessons you learned along the way? Spout some wisdom. If folks are listening to this and they're feeling encouraged, but maybe they don't feel like, man, what would I even talk about, teach about? What are some of the big things that have maybe not been seminary or conference learnings, but have come from the community, have come from the collective wisdom of brothers, sisters in ministry?
Yeah. Man, I think the first one, the big one, and I think it's big just because it's been something that has been on my heart, but something I've talked with a lot of guys about recently, is just, man, we need a big picture of ministry that is longer than just what's right in front of us. Like, I mean, sometimes it's good for us to kind of go up on that mountain to see how long that road is in front of us and know like here's where it's going to curve.
Go up to go out. Yeah, that's good.
and when we look down that road and our picture of what our ministry is going to look like is more than a year. But it's 5 years. It's 7 years. It's 10 years.
Which can feel overwhelming and yet also it's a little relaxing.
Right. Well, because man, if my picture is a year. How much do I have to get done to get to the goal?
Oh, yeah. Everything done by camp?
Right.
Hold, dude, slow down. Like, no, easy. Like, you have so many more camps.
right. This comes around every year.
Like, and that's great. That's the best part.
Right, exactly. So then suddenly I go, man, here's what I want this to look like. Here's where I'm trying to get our group. Here's kind of the culture I'm trying to build. I have time. I really do have time to get there.
It feels crunched because we know that we only have students at best for 4, 5, 6 years. So that feels crunched. But that's because you were measuring their faithfulness inside the time frame of just when you have them. Man, like it is like all of youth ministry, all of the time that you have all your students right now is but one season of their bigger life. And that's good perspective.
Right. And so that I think that's a big one. Take your time, slow down.
Okay.
I think in that there's so many opportunities in that. Like, I mean, when we slow down, we can start studying culture. And when I mean that, when I talk about this specifically, like your specific culture at your church where you're at. Like, okay, my context is I'm in a rural church that's mostly rural, slightly suburban. We're 200 to 300 people. We've had this. Okay, now part of that culture is what have the last 10 years been like? I'm thankful I'm blessed to have our pastor who's been there for 20 years. So I can sit down with him and say, hey, let's talk about what the last 5 years was like, last 10 years was like. Let's talk about what the last guy did, what were his priorities, and what kind of ministry did he build, so you can study culture when you do that. I mean,
study the soil.
Right. Like you got to, I mean, if you're going to know how to make it grow, you got to know what you got to put into it.
That's right. And so, if it needs nitrogen, it needs nitrogen.
That's right.
See, outdoors, we're gonna get that woodworking in that garden going. We're going to get it. I mean,
grew up family.
We got a retirement plan in the works.
We'll figure out a way. Just buy some land, 5 acres.
That's it, man.
And a mule.
Work the soil too. Now you're talking work. No, hold on. I
signed up for a tractor on a mule. I'm going to do it.
I like the idea of it. Yeah.
So I think taking time is a big one. Just take your time and move slow. And then, I would just say, I mean, in that mentorship vein, just have as many conversations as you can. Be the guy that sticks around. You know, there's a lot of times when I've thought to myself, I don't want to bother that guy. I don't want to pester him. He's here. He's got so many people. Well, I'm on the other side of it now going, bother me.
Please.
Come talk to me.
These are my favorite conversations, actually.
That's why I'm here. You know, I mean, I'm thankful that all the conferences now, they're providing everything digitally and like, hey, I know you can only make it to 3 breakouts.
Listen to the rest of them.
Well, now I'm going, man, if I don't make that, that's okay. I can catch that later, because the conversation you and I are going to have is probably going to be more uplifting for me and for you.
Fill your cup.
And it's going to be more productive for what's going to happen, because we can get really specific and talk about where you're at, what's going on in your life. And then, so I think that's big. Be okay with just stepping into people, in a good way, in a healthy way. So.
Well, man, Jacob, thank you so much for sharing today, brother.
Absolutely,
I appreciate our years of
Thanks
friendship, and let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
And man, people are going to ask. It's going to be in the thumbnail.
Sure.
On the way out.
Yeah.
Any beard tips for those that are aspiring? So you're a mentor in many ways, but for some, you're a mentor in one specific way.
Yeah. We can talk about that. Number one. No. Here's a big one.
The camera too. Yeah.
A healthy beard. Hear me on this.
Make it spiritual.
A healthy beard starts with healthy skin.
Oh.
Right, so you don't want.
It's the soil in which a beard.
That's right. That's right. So you want that skin to be healthy, right? Yeah. And then number two, if you can't grow it, you can't grow it.
Oh, okay.
We all have to understand who we are.
Yeah.
Genetics and DNA.
Did you just make this an identity issue?
Wow. I mean,
know thyself?
It's not an identity issue,
thy own
but it
self
points
be true?
to it. That's right. It helps us understand.
To thy own self beard true? I don't know. Sorry.
Like a lot of us, there's seasons in life,
Okay.
Sometimes it just takes a while. If you got it, you got it. And that's okay.
I have a dear friend. He has an incredible chin beard. The stash isn't there, but he rocks a chin strap, and it's solid. Hey, own it.
If it's you, it's
own
you.
It. Yeah.
That's right. So.
Maybe a little bit of balm in the morning, oil at night.
A little bit, and a little oil
shampoo
in the morning.
Shampoo every day.
But it's all it's oil that goes on. It's good for the skin.
It's good for
the
skin.
You got to get it down there into the skin,
which is hydration.
That, so.
And it's
right.
good.
That's right.
This and more next time around. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.